To address challenges in international development, leaders need to be able to diagnose the situation and challenges and take appropriate action. One leadership style that can be very effective in this context is adaptive leadership. Hayford suggests a model that outlines the challenges and how they might be approached by an adaptive leader. The model has three main components: situational challenges, leader behaviors, and adaptive work. Situational challenges are problems that the leader and their team face at a given time. The leader's job is first to identify what type of challenge they or their team is facing. If it is a technical challenge, it can be addressed easily by relying on the leader's authority and expertise. To address adaptive challenges, leaders need to use adaptive leadership. Leaders should be aware of not falling into the temptation of using a technical solution, such as deciding, telling, and prescribing to solve adaptive challenges. This is because technical solutions will not promote a change in people's values, attitudes, and habits of behavior. Leader behaviors are the generally prescribed behaviors for leaders when helping others confront difficult challenges and the changes required to address those challenges. Hayford suggests 6 behaviors that leaders can use to handle adaptive challenges. The first is get on the balcony. Leaders need to have distance to be able to see the big picture while still staying connected. Adaptive leaders move back and forth as participant and observer in the midst of a challenging situation. An example is when a leader who wants to address the poverty issue in his or her country seeks advice from education, healthcare, and financial experts to gain an overarching picture of the multidimensionality of poverty. The leader also steps out of his or her office and goes to visit poor and needy people to gain a micro-understanding of the issues that may not be seen at the strategic level. The leader should identify the adaptive challenge. He or she should focus their attention on problems that the leader cannot solve by him or herself and therefore require collaboration between the leader and team members. Issues such as global warming are impossible to resolve without an effective global effort. This doesn't mean that leaders should turn their back to the issue because they cannot solve it by themselves. The role here is to identify the issue and highlight the negative impacts that issues would have on nations. Leaders need to regulate distress. Complex and adaptive challenges create uncertainty and distress. If nations do not feel the massive impact that global issues may have on them, people are less likely to contribute to global development. For this reason, it is very important that leaders should keep a certain level of tension around the issue. If the leader can maintain urgency, people are motivated to stand up and do something for their countries and societies. Leaders should maintain disciplined action. When change is inevitable, adaptive leaders help others to maintain their focus on the change and the adaptive challenge. Otherwise, people tend to slide back into old behaviors. Making changes towards international development is difficult. More difficult, however, is to keep and reinforce the changes when they are produced. Leaders need to be able to give the work back to the people. As I said, change brings stress and pressure. Both leaders and followers are responsible for the change during the adaptation process. You as a leader won't be able to make significant improvements in, for example, labor rights if you don't get laborers involved in the process. You should facilitate the process, not to handle all the pressure single-handedly. And finally, leaders need to protect leadership voices from below. Adaptive leaders are open to the ideas of people who may be marginalized. When dealing with global issues, there are always voices that are likely to be lost in the diversity of perspectives. This could be because those people cannot express themselves effectively. Adaptive leaders always make sure that different perspectives are considered when dealing with global issues. Adaptive work refers to the process toward which adaptive leaders direct their efforts. For the team to be able to handle adaptive challenges, the leader should create a holding environment. The leader should create an atmosphere where the team members feel safe when confronting adaptive challenges. Adaptive challenges require changes in people's values, beliefs, and attitudes. When our values, rules, or priorities are challenged, we'll feel uncomfortable. For this reason, the leader's job is to support people to ensure that people maintain changes. The goal of adaptive leadership is to create and maintain an adaptive work environment. To this end, communication plays a critical role. Without effective communication, it is unlikely that a leader can encourage people to accept changes and adopt new values, attitudes, and behaviors. Adaptive leadership involves changing behavior in appropriate ways as the situation changes. Adaptive leadership is concerned with the behavior of leaders and the actions they take to encourage and support others to address changes that are central to their lives. Adaptive leaders encourage people to change and learn new ways of living so that they can perform better and flourish.